because that's how creepy the dark web is. I'm not even trying to mess with that mess. But somehow this woman found a hitman, paid him in Bitcoin to kill her ex-husband, who she'd been separated from for, I think, a good couple of years. So it's like you're hiring somebody to utilize their quote-unquote special set of skills in order to terminate the person that you have no connection with anymore.
Right. Which is it's sad, man.
Yeah. There should never be a need for that type of retaliation in general. And I speak from personal experience because, ironically enough, that's why I purchased that Mossberg 88.
Okay.
You know, it, not saying it got that crazy, but the tension started feeling like it could get to that point. So I definitely wanted to make sure that I could protect myself, because the way my house is set up, I've got the bedroom I stay at, which has like these two little not French doors, but I just got like double doors that open up and lead into the bedroom. And once I open those double doors, the first thing I see is two long windows. So automatically, if somebody wants to break into my house, they can get through those two long windows and go straight to my master bedroom. And then the front door, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a front door, but it's not exactly the most strongest front door out there, because there's two doors there as well. And those doors, they lock, but the one on the right, the only thing that's keeping it in place is I think they're metal, but nonetheless, there's two holes drilled into the impact plate of the door, or the door sill, if you will. There's a hole on the bottom and a hole on the top, and then there's two metal rods that push into those through the door. So somebody wants to get in, all they got to do is just impact that door hard enough, and boom. Doesn't matter about the lock or not. That door will open, I guarantee.
But what they got to deal with is once they get in.
Yeah, exactly. At the time, it was like, I got my katana. They can deal with that. Now it's at the time now, I've got 6, 7 friends you can talk to. Some of them deal with birds, some of them deal with deer, but a majority of them are going to deal with deer. But since then I've upgraded from that Mossberg, and I got a Kel-Tec KSG, which I put mini shells in it. So now it's like I've upgraded from 7 friends to 22 friends.
There you go.
Plus 20, up to 23 if my friend's hanging out in the house already, already ready to party, so to speak.
Exactly.
So I that's how serious I take my self-protection and self-preservation. So.
Oh man, that's what I'm talking about. Well, self-preservation is a good thing, especially nowadays.
Right, especially. And don't get me wrong, just because I have a high capacity whenever it comes to at least utilizing that KSG, doesn't mean that I'm gonna go on this whole Call of Duty killing spree in the house, because
right.
Another thing people need to realize is castle doctrine and how far it can go. And plus, I guess it may depend on the state. I don't know. But say, for example, in Georgia, if somebody were to break into the house right now, I wouldn't be able to go and stalk them in the house and try and take them out like that. No, I would probably have to wait. And if they end up in the room that I'm in, it's fair game. There was actually a situation that happened recently in the news where this woman ended up killing, I don't know if it was somebody that broke into her house, but nonetheless, she killed this person out of quote unquote self-defense. Initially, the biggest problem was the fact that she killed this person on the sidewalk. They were no longer in her house. They were in the sidewalk. And she kept, she released round after round into this person. Didn't call the police, just walked right back into her house.
Wow.
So that goes castle doctrine is pretty much outside and gone, you know, because the minute that you are dealing with somebody outside in your front yard, it kind of becomes public property. So now you're not protecting your castle. If anything, if you want to take it back to medieval times, you've already crossed the bridge past the moat. Exactly. You're on the battlefield now, where everybody is open to it. So,
and castle doctrine also is actually only in the living area of your property. So that means that even if somebody's breaking into your garage or back patio, that still ain't the living area. I tell all my students, living areas where you see vents at.
I mean, it makes sense. And I'll be straight up honest with you, man. I hope somebody does steal my car at this point.
Hey, that's what we got insurance for.
Right. I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. If somebody steals my car, I would chase after them to help push that car. You know, like, oh no, hang on. Let me help you. Make sure it starts up. All right. Is it rolling yet? Cool. Oh no, my car is stolen. That's pretty much how I would be acting right now.
Exactly. Hey, I don't blame you though.
You give me a new vehicle at this point. I mean, but you're absolutely right. I mean, living area, you know, especially if you know, as the main sentence goes, if you fear for your life or you feel like your life is threatened, if somebody opens up my front door and I never invited them in, I'm definitely gonna feel like my life is threatened. Yeah. You shouldn't be there in the first place.
Also, castle doctrine in Florida, I'm not sure about Georgia, but in Florida, it goes to your car as well. Your car is an extension of your home. And but you know, a couple of things that people have to be wary of is this: if you got like a ex-wife or a baby mama or ex-husband or baby daddy and his name is on the lease or he's on the deed or the mortgage, castle doctrine doesn't go with it. Or if he's a co-signer of that car, castle doctrine doesn't pertain to that. You can't shoot nobody that legally owns something. You would only be able to shoot somebody that had no business being there. And when I say no business, no ownership or anything in the property. So a lot of people got to understand that too as well.
I mean, that makes sense. You know, they got stake in the property.
Yeah.
Now I do know, and I'm not a lawyer, but I do know that there is certain things like abandonment of the marital home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think at least in Georgia, if, like, let's say your estranged wife or your separated wife who's been gone for a whole year, as long as there's been no sexual relations between you and that person hasn't set foot into that property for a whole entire year, I think technically that counts as abandonment of the relationship, which means that I think legally, don't quote me on it, but legally, they should not be able to enter the domicile where you stay at.
Well, now you got to be able to prove all that too now.
True, this is true. But I mean, in all honesty, though, like if they have been gone for the longest time, the first thing you should do, especially if they're trying to get back into the house, is contact the police. You know, you can't just become a vigilante and take the law into your own hands. Like, you've been gone for a whole year, mofo. You ain't getting in this house. Plow, plow. I mean, that's not how. That's not the best option.
Nah, you still better think about that, boy. If you got, like, for me, it's just me and my property and nobody. Hey, but if you got that property tied with somebody, you better think long and hard before you shoot somebody.
Right. Because even if they have been out of that house for a whole year, like you said, as long as their name is on that lease, that's where it gets sticky.
Yep. And you will be in jail quick.
Right. Speaking of the wrong mindset as far as firearms go. Uh, what would you say to men that think firearm ownership is the only way to protect themselves or to protect a woman?
Well, I mean, firearms is just one way. I mean, you definitely want to, and I would say firearm is the easiest way to protect yourself. You know, a lot of people don't want to go out there and go and have hand-to-hand combat. So, but you need those skills as well. You know, I mean, what if you miss, or what if you run out of bullet ammo? Okay, now it's just you and that other person hand-to-hand combat. You want to at least get some type of hand-to-hand combat. You want to have maybe even a non-lethal, such as maybe a baton or stun gun or mace. I had one of my clients the other day say, "Hey, I don't think I can kill somebody. What's a good place to get a stun gun from?" I'm saying, "Hey, look, I'm gonna give you I told her the honest truth. I said, look, stun guns, mace, should be used either in non-lethal use or in a backup role. You do not want to have a stun gun as your primary and only weapon. No. Now you asking to get, you know, you basically just saying, hey, you know what? You're basically just saying, you know, hey, you know what? I'm too afraid to shoot somebody, but which I doubt, because if it comes to somebody's, if your mother or child, somebody got a knife up to their neck or blah, and they're a threat, man, you will shoot that person, and I don't care who it is.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely agree with that, because when I first started carrying, I had two different batons, and I've got a Columbia River knife and tool scrub, which is it's kind of like a knife. It's probably about like, it's not kind of like a knife. It is a knife, but it's maybe about 4 or 5 inches long, fixed blade. Because I still do carry around a folder, but I think a fixed blade is a lot quicker. It's a lot easier to access, especially if it's something that you need to utilize as soon as possible. That's why I keep I keep it near my belt buckle. So number one, because it's part of my EDC, it blends in with my clothes. If I ever end up in a situation where I have to do hand-to-hand with somebody and they're threatening my life, or they're trying to go for my firearm, or they have a firearm on me and somehow I've just gotten that close to them, then it's a quicker action for me to reach along my belt, pull that knife out, and then just go to work if need be. Now, granted, I do need to study CQB or like hand-to-hand combat, and I highly recommend that if you are going to carry multiple different ways to protect yourself, you practice in those as well. And I don't know, sometimes I think I might be a little overkill, because at one point I was carrying around the scrub knife, a baton, and my firearm. So I shouldn't have to be like, okay, this is your second option, you need to stop. Okay, this is your third option, you need to stop. Okay, this is your 55th option, you really should stop now. Like, if it gets past at least option 1 or option 2, you know, your lethal and your non-lethal, then at that point, yeah, the firearm is going to have to be utilized. But, you know, like you said, just there's a lot more to it than just relying on your firearm, because especially if you don't know how to de-escalate the situation or talk to somebody or be the bigger person and walk away. Because there will be times where, I don't care what somebody's calling you, you need to walk away. Because at this point, it's almost like the animal kingdom, right? So if you are, let's say you're the alligator in the water, right? And you got this wildebeest that comes up and it just starts hitting you with his hooves.
Yep.
At the end of the day, I know my power and I know what I'm bringing, and it would just be easier for me to just swim away, because just like a firearm, if you keep pushing me and I know that I've got the power to pull you underneath the water, I could do that at any time.
Exactly.
It takes a bigger mind and a larger realization of responsibility to even carry a firearm. So if you think that a gun is the only way to protect yourself and protect your woman, because you got some dudes out there like, yeah, girl, it's gonna be all right. I got this. I got the what do they call? I got the glizzy. Whatever they call it. What are you going to do whenever you, like you said, run out of bullets, or when you misfire, or you hit an innocent bystander? Hell, you could probably go to jail for shooting a cat by accident. Yeah. So. Right. But it's good to hear you say that, because people need to realize that there's a lot more to carrying a firearm than just ready to pop off a couple of caps.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, with private citizens, we have to do even more than what the police have to do, because we have to think about whether or not we're breaking the law or not.
Exactly.
And,
definitely, exactly.
And you got to know the law, so that's the key thing there. So, but.
It's funny because there's a you know how you got OWB and IWB whenever it comes to carrying your firearm,
right?
Which is in waistband and outside waistband.
Mm-hmm.
To me, there's a third one. I call it CWB, and that's carrying while black.
Yeah.
Because the weapons permit allows you to carry blades past 12 inches.
Right.
So hypothetically speaking, if I wanted to, I could literally carry around my katana on my back or at my side, and it'll be okay, because I've got my license to do so. But it's the CWB aspect that keeps me from carrying certain blades on me. Like, for example, I've got another Columbia River knife that was they combined themselves with Ruger, and they came out with this muzzle brake knife, which is probably about 5-6 inches from the hilt, or not from the hilt, from the what do you call that thing? Basically, the actual knife itself is about 5 or 6 inches, and it's a Bowie knife.
Okay.
So if I were to EDC that, I don't think I would be able to EDC it out in the open. If anything, I would probably try and EDC it concealed. Just like most of my carrying is done done concealed. Right. I've only done OWB. I've only done that one time and one time only. I went to the family. Was it the Family Dollar or the Family Tree? One of those little
Dollar Tree.
Not a dollar. It's the Family Mart or whatever the heck it's called.
Family Dollar. Okay.
I think it was the Family Dollar, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was kind of in the hood area, right? I was near this place called Atlanta Fish Market and Grill. Well, basically, I was kind of in the hood area, right?
Okay.
So that was the first and only time I carried OWB, and I had my TP9 SFX, which is a full-size handgun.
Right.
And I'll never forget. I walked into the store. There's a lady sitting there that worked at the store. She's like, "Hello, good morning." God damn. Cause the handgun's already big enough, right? But I had the Black Hawk Omnivore with the light bearing holster, right? So it literally just looked like this big old black block with this big old handle sticking out. And I guess as soon as she saw that, she's like, "Oh God!" Because this isn't a mainly black neighborhood, so
yeah.
I could only imagine what it would be like if I was carrying in a white neighborhood. I don't think it's the same mentality as like another example when I walked into my my place where I pick up my firearms if I order them online, right? My FFL.
Okay.
I walked in there before at the height of COVID when people were trying to purchase multiple firearms, only to be turned back because when they found out they had to wait about 10 or 13, maybe multiple weeks because they didn't have their carrying permit, which is something I highly recommend that people get. But it was busy. It was that busy because of that. So I'll never forget this dude walked in, white dude had his firearm on his hip. And I'm like, well, hey, he's got his carrying permit. Probably he can get away with it and he can do it. Mm-hmm. It's part of his rights.
Well, in Georgia's, you guys got open carry, right?
We do have open carry, yeah.
Yeah.
But I still feel it comes down to that CWB thing because, if I were to open carry in like Publix, right? Because I think you can open carry in Publix because they don't have a ban against firearms.
Okay, good.
But still, it's just the fact that maybe it's just mental. I don't know. But for me, if I were to walk into a Publix with an open carry firearm, I think they would have certain feelings about it. Just like it's perfectly fine to open carry a rifle in Georgia. But there was a black guy that open carried a rifle. Now, granted, he did have other firearms on him, but he open carried a rifle. I think he had a shotgun too. But nonetheless, he did it. Yeah. He did it in this place called Atlantic Station, which is
okay. I know what it is.
Yeah, so the whole makeup of the people around that area.
Yeah.
He freaked out. He freaked out somebody that was in the Publix, and this man went into the restroom. He set his firearms aside to do whatever he had to do. But in the meantime, somebody went to the manager and said, "Hey, there's this dude that's carrying this firearm, this big rifle, or as the media likes to call it, he's carrying a long gun. I think we need to call the police." Mm-hmm. If I were to do the same thing, I know for a fact that the same situation probably would have happened to me. Now, granted, I would be legal to do so because not only is it number one legal to open carry the rifle with you, but number two, I would have been fine because I have my carrying permit and I've got clean record, whatever. It doesn't really matter, but still, nonetheless, I have a clean record, carrying permit, legality to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, that CWB aspect and I guess, again, the way my mindset is set up, there's certain things that I know I definitely wouldn't be able to do.
Right.
So
right.
It's just...
Yeah, that's an unfortunate too that, CWB, we have to put up with that,
Yeah, and that, I guess that brings me to the next question is, what do we need to realize or know about other societies involved in the Second Amendment? What do you think we need to realize?
First of all, we're going to be glad that we're not over in like Australia or the United Kingdom because they don't even have the right to bear arms. And in certain cases, they can only carry like a pocket knife,
It's very rare because you can, and it's like a minuscule part of the population, but you can own firearms over in Australia. It's just you got to go through the proper channels and everything, but it's not.
And even at that, it can only be a shotgun, from what I understand.
I don't know. There's a guy in my group, was the Ruger PC Charger group. He's got some rifles, and he's located in Australia, but it's not. I don't think it's. The whole population isn't going to do that, number one. So it's like you got your one-offs, but like you're saying, you are so restricted with what you can carry and what you have to go through in order to carry or just own firearms over in those countries to the point where, if it was applied just like America, or rather if it was applied to America, because I can guarantee you that's probably what most people are trying to aim for now, political people, then it would be completely different. Gotcha. But I definitely agree with that. Some of us don't really realize how well off we are whenever it comes to certain rights that we have. And that also, that also brings me to the whole thing of racial separation whenever it comes to the Second Amendment. I think, personally, I think it's one of harm, more so of harm than of help, because, granted, you are trying to have the best interests of Black, in our case, we are trying to have the best interests of Black people involved in the Second Amendment, but you also have those Black people that are like, especially way before 2020, they would look at firearms as some quote unquote white boy shit, which I don't really think is the best mentality to have for any race, because look at us now. It's almost as bad as saying, well, that's some white boy shit, and you're listening to some Nirvana or some rock and roll, but here we are now, and we've had multiple bands that had Black frontmen, from Killswitch Engage to Seven Dust and so many other ones. But it took time for that to happen because that type of music was turned away. I use that to compare it to the Second Amendment now, whereas back then it's like, oh, that's some old country white boy shit, to us trying to gather up or become more of a part of this this sphere. But we, like you said earlier, we are trying to catch up. We're having to catch up after so many generations that have been involved, so many generations of other races that have been involved in this, who have trained their children, who have trained their family, and so many other people, to the point where it's almost as easy as breathing air to them now. Whereas we are like, okay, we got to catch up. So what do you think about that, though, the racial separation in the Second Amendment?
I think it's all about knowing, well, first and foremost, having the fortitude to go out and know your rights, first and foremost. Now, for me, I'm a criminal justice major, so I always want to know what I can and can't do legally, okay? But the Second Amendment probably is not going to come up to most people's forefront until they really need it, So that's why you don't have a lot of Black advocacy groups that are verbally out there talking about the Second Amendment. I mean, you may have a few gun groups here and there, okay, but the NAACP never talks about the Second Amendment. Matter of fact, I don't think I've ever heard them even. If I didn't know about the Second Amendment, I definitely never would have known about the Second Amendment through the NAACP.
That's true. That's facts.
I mean, they are the biggest pro-Black group, that I'm aware of. So why aren't they? And that was the last right that we were afforded. So why don't we have more Black people talking about the Second Amendment? I mean, in NAACP, I think if we had grassroots organizations such as the NAACP that were willing to go out there and express information or knowledge about the Second Amendment, hey, actively pair up with gun clubs or gun organizations like what's the Black organization?
NAGA, the National African American Gun Association.
I mean, why is the NAACP teaming up with them? My thing is this. Yeah, we as Black people should know and have more information regarding the Second Amendment, but we're forced to either hear about it from the NRA or GOA or UCC, what is it? United States Concealed Carry Association,
USCCA.
Yeah. So, I mean, we should have our own grassroots organizations that we go to or can go to for information regarding the Second Amendment. I would love to be a part of the NAACP Second Amendment, if they ever had a Second Amendment type venture to give Black folks information on the Second Amendment, on what they can, can't do, gun instruction, gun safety, gun knowledge, shooting, all of that.